Welcome to Keyframers, the animated collaborative coding livestream where we bring imaginative user interfaces to life. I'm your host, Stephen Shaw, but you may know me as @Shashaw. And David K. Piano is David Khourshid, of course. He is on vacation this week, but he is trying to join us at least partially. You might see what I mean a little bit, but together, I guess, we are coding compadres, animation amigos, Boolean buddies, and keyframe companions. Tonight, we'll be building an animation from scratch using a small bit of JavaScript and some HTML and CSS. This show is made possible by your support. You can pledge at patreon.com/keyframers, or you can like and subscribe at the links all around. There's some additional links down below, and you may even earn a special shout out as we go along. And we're happy to answer any questions you may have as we go. So pipe up in the chat, and we'll get to talking. So this week we are continuing a series that we started last week about UX animation principles. And we're starting off from this guide by Terrace called "The Ultimate Guide to Proper Use of Animation in UX." Now this is a wonderful article that I highly recommend you reading. Let me get that link for you in the chat for you to read along if you so desire. There's so many good points in it. Last week we mostly covered delay and duration, showing some differences in this style animation, where the list is just building in, and showed the dramatic difference that proper timing and delay introduces. And then we went into, let's see, one of the other ones here. I think it was this one. No. Yeah, one of these other ones that was great. You should check out last week's video, UX animation principles, and I think you'll really enjoy that if you are into animation at all. Tonight we're gonna do a few extra from this. Starting out, I'd like to do, oh, that's not it. Don't worry about that. I would like to do this lovely little demonstration of proper acceleration and deceleration curves. So this is showing a simple kind of side hamburger menu pop out, and the acceleration is when it's coming in from the, well, actually that'd be deceleration at first. When it's coming in, it starts out close to full speed and then slows down into place. You can see that with this curve here. Starting out, goes very fast, and then starts to taper out. You can see that. Let me see. There we go. You can see how it slows down, looking at it frame by frame. Starts out very fast and slows into place. And then when it's closing out, you get this acceleration curve. So it starts out, let's see. These GIFs are gigantic, so they take up most of my screen, so sorry for the scrolling back and forth. You can see it starts out slow and then speeds up going out. And that just really gives a realistic effect to the animation. So let's get started here. All right, I copied over some of the pieces we used from last week. It doesn't look like David is here with us, but he might hop on at some point to add some flavor. So let's just start out with our main device. We'll start out with a let's make it feel good first. I want to start out with good, right? All right, so we'll do class equals device. Let's take a look at what we have in the animation. All right, we've got simple header there, so let's do header, device header, and that's where we'll have our menu toggle. And we'll want to do an input type equals checkbox, because we'll use our handy dandy checkbox hack to do that. Let's see, name equals menu toggle, and then let's change this down here. Let's do label, menu toggle, and button. Let's see, we'll just drop in a simple menu icon. Make that a lovely button. All right. Actually, let's name this menu open. And then menu toggle 4 equals menu open. So when we click down here, ID equals menu open. Right, the clicking is working. I remove the button here. Maybe that's messing with it. Yeah, there we go. All right, so not as semantic, but that's all right. And then we'll do a nav class equals menu. Go ahead and just clean that up. And then here we'll have UL with LI times 5. These will be our menu items. And then for the here, we'll have a label, close, menu, close. Just a moment. Let's see if we can get David in here. That's what I'm on. Close this out. See if that helps him join in. All right, going back to it here. And chime in the chat as I go if you have any questions. Let's do X, the multiplication X there. Menu close. All right, and then down here we'll do our main equals content, and we'll do just let's see, dummy times 5. Just insert some dummy content here. Right. Okay, let me copy everything and make sure that on the right. Yeah, that's strange. Getting some oddities with this pin. Let me back, see what I can do. Change view. Well, sorry about that. Let's just continue here. Let's get our content back in here. All right. So let's start out. Okay, hey, I see David in there. Are you getting anything, David? We might be finally synced up. Let's see. Okay, let's go ahead and just hide the menu. Menu display, none. And then what we can do is menu open, checked, star, and then we'll do all of our toggled states in here, display, block. Right, and then if we check that, you can see that going back and forth. I'm not sure why. Okay, content is doing our grid overlap here. Let me remove that. Pat it all. Go. All right. So now we're in a good spot. Right. So that's the simple checkbox hack. We've got our input type equals checkbox of menu open. And then with our labels, we can basically make those buttons to toggle the checkbox back and forth. So that's that. We've done that in a few episodes. It's a nice way to make just CSS only toggles, and that's right. Some hamburger menus for dinner. Anyone's hungry? Just ask in the chat. We'll serve you up a nice hamburger. Okay, let's get our content. We'll do our dummy content as width 100%, height. Let's do 10 rem. Whoa. 5 rem. Okay, that's a little more reasonable. Background far. What is it? Color. Let's see. Okay. And then margin, bottom, 1 rem. Border radius. 5 rem. And then device, we'll do man width 50% with our max width of 20 rem, and that just gives us a nice little stretchy layout. One thing I always do is last child, margin bottom 0 rem to prevent that double high issue there. You can also set that under content or the bottom there. All right, that looks pretty good. Let's take out one of these dummy contents, and then also do padding top 25%. And let's bump that up to 35. Yeah, and that gives us a nice, more responsive ratio there. Okay. Let's see if that does not help. But I bet if we did that, it would help. Basically, looking at, yep, that does it. But that's not quite what we want. We can do menu, position, absolute, top 0 to 0, bottom 0, width 80%. Because if we look and the menu comes out, it's not quite the full width. But we can go do padding, inherit, background, inherit, and then let's see, index 2. There we go. And we'll add a, hey, thanks for following, Cabal. Very nice to have you with us. Let's add a nice box shadow, 0 pixels. 2 rem, 3 rem, RGBA 000.3. The more subtle the box shadow, the better. Overflow, hidden. Hey, David, no. Stop that. Okay, whew. There we go. Now we have proper sizing. Absolutely huge on my screen. You bozo. Well, what kind of screen are you dealing with here? That max width should be, oh, I guess, okay. Apple Watch. Here you go. How's that, David? That should be better. The min width overrides the max width. So if we just instead default to width, that's rather helpful. Hi, Nick. Thanks for joining us. So we are working on some UX animation principles, continuing the series from last week. There you go. There's the link to what's going on. All right. That should be more reasonable, David. Let's do 0, 0, and do that a little bit stronger. Let's see. Thank you, Nick. That's 90%. Yeah. One thing we can do is margin, right. Nope. Width 5%. Okay, great. Now, under our menu content, menu UL, menu LI, style type none, margin 0, padding 0. That's right. We have some disembodied David with us today. Menu LI, width 5%, height 1 rem, and we'll make that background our color. Okay, margin bottom 5 rem. That gives us our nice list item. Uh-oh. David's breaking stuff. Hey, Tall, Dark, and Handsome. How's it going? You're doing well. Thanks for subscribing. That's quite awesome. That's a great way you can all support us if you are so inclined. If you are an Amazon Prime member, you actually get a free Twitch Prime subscription, and that's quite helpful if you use that on us. Let's do that instead. This will do just one. Let's see how that looks. Okay. Or let's see if faded color is what we want. Maybe. Let's get our color picker out here. Get a let's do that here. Nope. We'll do a new variable for color. Variable naming is always fun. David's about to some rather interesting things. Oh, I see some things happening up in the corner here. Oh, thanks for following, Cozy. That makes me feel better. Like, well, thanks for joining us, Hawk. There's lots of good content out there. I'm not gonna judge. I'm not able to watch it right now, but I'm sure they're doing some interesting things. Let's see. And I'll go ahead and make that rim because I know that makes David feel better. Okay. And that. Get out of here. Can I click it to make it go away? No, it doesn't work. All right. Okay, so we're toggling from display none. Hey, thanks, Hawk. So glad you're following. All right. So let's go back here. Love it. We'll do make it a little bit thinner. And that feels nice. All right, for our header, let's see. Okay. Header, let's do padding 0. Yeah, that's right. Utilizing that special emoji just for subscribers. If any of you feel like subscribing, you can share our faces too. Get out of here. Let's do padding bottom there. That's probably better as margin bottom. Yeah, how about that? Okay, let me move this. Let's group all this toggle stuff together because when we do the animation, it'll be best to be able to see that all together. Hey, thanks for hosting, Hawk. That's awesome. Greatly appreciate that. If you have a Twitch channel, that is another great way to support us, is by hosting or setting up auto hosting for us. And all that does is just send some viewers our way when you aren't streaming. All right, let's style our labels a little bit here. Label, cursor, pointer. Oh, awesome. What kind of programming are you doing, Hawk? You do web dev as well, or come here. Down. Go. Awesome. Okay. So here's the very basic setup we need. And yeah. Oh, of course, he's overriding it there. Ha. Let's see how long it takes him to get that visible again. Oh, awesome. Web dev, HTML, CSS, JS, and other assorted languages. That's great. We need some more dev content. It's there's a small but growing community, and it's nice to see more coming. Okay, awesome. So we've got the basic setup in place. Instead of display none, we'll do visibility hidden and visibility visible. Oh dear, we've got some subliminal messages happening. I don't even know if you can see that on the stream because it's so light. Okay, so change this from visibility hidden to visibility visible, and we can actually transition. Let's just go ahead and do our translate x -100%, transform, translate x 0%. David's probably going to want to change that to none. That's fine. Okay. All front end. There's a lot of good things you can do with back end. The front end is definitely my preference. My eye's gonna glaze over with the server config jumble. Okay, so we've got our menu off to the left and toggling it in. Let's go ahead and add a transition. My goodness. If I can type transition and transform and translate all right on the first try, that will be a glorious day. All right, check that out. We've got, this is probably our bad example. Do need to get a darker color. Let's see. Come here, Sip. Handy dandy little color picker. Darker color. There we go. And now that gives us our menu color. Ooh. That does not seem right, does it? That's going to end up being the same. Yeah. All right. Well, this is for the bad example. All right. So right now we have a, get out of here. We have the bad example of just a linear transition. I mean, it gets the job done. It helps inform the user a little bit of what's happening, but that just doesn't feel natural. It feels very robotic. SCSS really isn't that difficult. You can use it just like CSS if you want, and then you can enhance a little bit with variables as you go. And that is a great way to approach it. Transition delay 0. All right. What I've done now is added a visibility transition. So before, when we weren't toggling the visibility, you can see that drop shadow hanging out. And if we weren't starting out from full 100%, you could see the menu hanging over, and ugh, nobody wants that. We could do opacity, but you could still have some click issues where it wouldn't, where the menu would override or block any clicks to the to the content below. So by adding visibility hidden and a visibility animation with a transition delay equal to the duration, we get all that with just one property. And all right, so let's do the good easing. So looking back at our animation here, you can see the curve going this way. Let's see, let me do a new window with cubicbezier.com. This is my favorite little web utility for building cubic Bezier curves. So we can adjust ours to make it look a little bit like this one. I'm actually going to tweak it a bit from the original to make it have an even stronger deceleration curve. So that stronger here. Okay, let's give that a try. Okay, transition timing function. This is one of the most awkwardly named properties. I would love a better name for that. Let's see, transition timing function. Did I do that right? That doesn't appear to be working. Can I do it? Oh, because we're still on bad. Hey, we toggle that over to good. There we go. All right, that's probably a little extreme, so let's slow that down. Yeah, there we go. All right, so you can see how that feels pretty good coming in, but going back out, that feels a little jarring because it just kind of jumps out. So let's play with that. Let's get another easing going here, where oops. Let's look back at our chart here from the article. Yeah, it's actually starting that way, but basically we want it to be slow here and then easing out the top as well, giving us a nice slow pull. Let's copy that, drop it in. Menu open check. Try clicking outside the menu. Okay, let's see. Oh, nice. So David added some, toggle overflow here. David added a nice little feature here that you can do. Hey, you like data state too? We do as well. Sites that do not do this are very frustrating. Yes. R should be illegal. Yes, I agree. Yeah, that's such a common anti-pattern where you can't actually just click away from a menu or a modal. You have to click just the close button or some kind of primary action. You can't just dismiss it. So highly recommend you help your users out by utilizing that that handy little trick. Let's see, where did he do that? Toggle overflow. Oh, there it is. So yeah, it's just position absolute, width and height 100%. So it's covering this whole area. We could add background, bar, faded, color, so that you can see that. Place. Yeah. but that's not important to actually see. Our drop shadow is helping us out there to give a distinction. Probably make that a little bit stronger. Hey, what letters? Thanks for following. Oh, that's a pretty strong, pretty strong one there. That's okay. Let's add a slight opacity transition as well. Opacity 0.4 seconds linear. And then gotta add opacity 1 to it as well. It just helps it fade in, out. That's our linear. All right, data state equals good. All right, so we need to now do the out transition before I got distracted. You guys, stop distracting me, come on. Let's nest all of this. Right, and then we'll do getting an error. That should be closed out. Not sure what's happening there. Oh, there's a dot. Hey, feel free to point out small mistakes like that. I don't want to get tripped up on that. Okay, so let's paste in our other cubic Bezier. This one should be nice and slow. Okay, we actually need to reverse these because this will be the cubic Bezier for it going out, and this will be the Bezier for it going in. There we go. All right, how's that feel? Oh, always happens. Let's go back to our original animation and watch and get that feel. Yeah, I'd say that's pretty good. Let's do color, darker color. Oh, that's not an actual text. It's okay. All right. All right, disembodied David. How does that feel to you? Does that need any tweaking here? I'll probably make this a little bit slower. Out that curve a little bit. Oh, actually, that should be higher. And then this probably good. Yeah, that feels good. So let's go back and compare that to the bad example of just linear. It just feels so rough, doesn't it? But if we toggle that over to good, check it out. Much better. Let's add these both side by side. You can see, okay, that actually might, okay, that actually works per instance there. Go with, there we go. One last thing is to hide our input checkboxes. Let's see, okay, here's our toggling code. App, input checkbox. Let's give those position absolute, up 0, left 0, to get them out of the flow, so they're not in the way. And then I usually like to make them opacity 0 as well, and that should work in all browsers. Let's do menu open, bad, 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 bad. There we go. That gives us two different toggles, right? Wait. Why did it stop working? Uh-oh. Did I break it? Oh, my. Let's just do input checked. There we go. Donnie Brand asked, is animating the burger within the scope of the session? No, not really focused on that. I believe we've done some burger animation in some of our past videos. I definitely recommend checking out youtube.com/keyframers for some of our past videos. We've definitely done some stuff with burger menus before that you might enjoy. There we go. Yeah, that feels so much better. Awesome. Okay, cool. Let's move on to the next here. Let me, yeah, this will be messy. Just a moment. Make a new pin here. And switch it over. So save lab. Get that over to David so he can join us if he wants. No. Latest version of Chrome is very bad about utilizing the toolbar in full screen. The little checkbox for that does not want to work. Right, I'm just copying over the code directly so we've got a base to work from. That gives us something to work with. And let's go to the next one. Oh, actually, yeah, we can copy our list items from here. Let's go here and copy our list from the episode a couple weeks ago. Rid of our menu, just add the list, and then copy our list styles. Line content. Oh, it's a little sloppy there. Okay. Do that, I guess. All right. Avatar. I'm gonna copy those styles. Sorry for all the fun setup. This is what we normally try to do ahead of time so that you don't have to watch this. Okay. Let's do this style type none. We just need to do a background color for this background far. Actually, faded color. There we go. One run. That is the main reason I don't like using unordered lists and ordered lists. Style, type, none. All the resetting that's needed just to make it look plain. Lower that down. There. Let's do RGB. Let's see, that should actually be much lighter. Got some cats joining me. Let's see, color. Yeah, okay. All right. So let's look at this example. This kind of harkens back to the delay and staggering, but in the article with this animation, it's talking a little bit more about choreography. You can see when these are coming in, all the way on the right here, they all come in together, which can be a little visually distracting. And then in this middle example here, they're just kind of popping in whatever order they want. And then here we've got the items entering in a proper stagger. So let's start out. Sorry, let me do some reordering here. Not having to bounce around as much. All right. Let's do content. Animation. Enter. 0.4 seconds. We'll do our general cubic Bezier that David loves. We'll establish our keyframes. Enter. We'll do from, opacity 0, transform, translate, Y, rim, scale 0.5 or 0.8. Let's just see what that looks like. Okay, we've got our bad setup here. Let's go ahead and copy. Do bad on the right. Oh geez. Get rid of our menu styles because we don't need those. Okay. Go. All right. our enter animation, and then let's do some good animation. We'll slow these down just a little bit so we can see that a little bit better. All right, and then we're just going to do a quick SAS loop and do content, let's see, data state equals good, and then do that. Give a animation delay to the content nth child. We do need to be sure to set at least backwards on the animation. That's so nice. Let's see, or delay, did we set that? Okay, did. And then, let me see, where is that? It's not I'll add that in a little bit. All right, so let's just add the toggle or the run button so we can rerun the animation here. All right, so just take these in as the animation reruns, and you can see the good example on the left really leads your eye down the list as you would want. You want the user to be able to scan the content pretty quickly. The bad example just kind of brings everything all at once. Your eye bounces around and doesn't really know where to look. We could probably lessen the delay a little bit. Doesn't need to be as dramatic. Let's rerun that. Yeah, just a nice short delay. Speed that up just a little bit. Let's make that a little more dramatic. Increase it just a little bit. Animation should always have some fine tuning. You want it to feel nice, and the only way to really test the way it feels is to just watch it over and over again, tweak the values, and try it again. Yeah, tell a nice difference there. This before we move on. 0.23.1. Yeah. Right. Okay, so that is the basics of choreography, and last episode kind of touched on that a lot with the delay and staggering. Choreography gets a lot more complicated as you're integrating a lot of different elements. One element of choreography I did want to showcase was this. So if we were just doing an nth child style loop like we did for this list, that works great when it's just all on one axis. But if we start doing a grid style layout, you get some visually confusing kind of staggering. Your eye kind of bounces around and has a little bit of trouble following. Hey, thanks for following. So So let's go ahead and implement that really quick. I'll start a new one here. Starting a new pin on CodePen. Private, oops. And then over to collab. So I can send that to David. Oh, Chrome. Get that out of here. Let's give this a nice name. 1.23.2, because this is going to be our next example. Let's copy all this over. That's not it. About the setup time here, but it's all good. Let's simplify the lists here. Just make it li dummy times, let's see, 15. Let's do 15. And we'll go ahead and eliminate our good state for now. David is here with us. He's just not as disembodied vocally as he was. Okay, let's do that and set up our dummy width. 33%, padding top, 33%. And we'll do background color. Get rid of that and that. We'll do display grid here. Grid, template, columns. Grid, column, yeah. Bad Wi-Fi. Yeah, that's what happens when you're on a ship. Let's see here. Is our dummy content not displaying? Let's move all this up. That, play flex wrap, auto, 100%. What's happening? Yeah, close dummy list. Make sure we're getting some proper targeting happening. Okay. Let's just change that to height or rim, just to width for rim, sure. Our color, okay. Well, that's not exactly what we want. Let's go back to our display grid here. 100%. Columns, I believe is correct. Okay, there we go. And yeah, you can see our staggering is not quite up to par. Red row, gap, one rim. Let's go ahead and remove 3 of these, just do a 12 grid. Man, that sure does take a while, huh? Let's speed that up a little bit. Yeah. Okay. Now that it really isn't that bad of an animation. I mean, it's certainly not ideal, but it's the way that your eye has to follow the content as it moves is a little distracting. So let's try to improve that a little bit. So currently our stagger is just done with nth child, like we did with the list, and that's fine. It works okay, I guess. But the good example here is actually starting from the top left and leading down to the bottom right, and that is not something that's specifically easy to do with just CSS here. Yeah, are you adding in the refresh one click, David? That's very helpful. Let's see here. Okay, let's go ahead. So because nth child is not going to work, let's use splitting. And I had to use an asset version of it versus the CDN .com/splitting/dist/splitting.css. Normally you can just do it that way, but I'm still working on polishing up 1.0.6 that fixes a bug that's for this. That's right, Christopher. We will be using splitting by grid. So let's just go ahead and call splitting. Nothing's going to happen there. But if we set a data splitting equals grid here, you'll instantly see nothing changes. That's because splitting doesn't really do anything by itself, but it adds all those lovely variables. Let me stop the auto refresh here so that I can actually inspect and show you guys what's happening. All right. So splitting, it again is my tiny little micro library that you can find at splitting.js.org, and it handles everything from text splitting to staggering. Well, not staggering. It handles splitting by children, giving them indexes. Basically, it just goes through and maybe creates some elements or just indexes elements with CSS variables. And then you can go in and utilize those CSS variables for extra fun things. We had an episode a couple weeks ago where we did nothing but splitting animations, and I would definitely recommend checking that out. All right, so let's toggle this over to good, and you can see these variables down here. So we've got data splitting equals grid, and then splitting adds these call total and row total variables. Call is just short for column. So the column total is 3 because we have our 3 grid here, And then row total is 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just because that's the number of items that gets stacked up. Splitting by grid actually goes through and checks the offset left and offset top of each element, and then determines the rows and columns by that. So each element down here now has a call index and a row index. So the column index starting at 0 up to 2, and then row index starting at 0 for the first row, 1 for the second row, 2 for the third row, and so on. And then we can utilize those variables in our CSS. So let's go. All right, so right now we don't have any staggering. They're just all appearing. So for data state equals good, let's go. Let's style our dummy elements with animation delay. And we're going to use calc because calc allows us to really utilize those CSS variables. So we can do var call index times var delay. Let's see what that looks like. Huh. Well, that's pretty cool. Basically, it causes every column to fade in together, which, hey, that's a nice effect. But going back to the original, we're actually looking for it starting in the top and staggering down to the bottom. So what we can do is in our calc var row index times var delay. And let's check that out. Aha! And that is what we're looking for. We can probably adjust our delay. But if we just divide it by 2, that should work. Back to auto updating preview. And let's clean this up. I always like to do multi-line with calc because it just gets so much easier to read. Okay. Yeah, awesome. Let's see. Okay. All right. Let's add our bad example back in, and we can compare the two. And yeah, that's a little bit different of a timing. I want to speed that up. Let's drop that down to 80 for the bad. And we'll do 160 here. Yeah. Let's see. Would splitting on a grid recalculate if you were using autofill or autofit? So no, it doesn't actually run constantly or anything like that. It only runs when it's called. In the case of responsive layout where the number of columns or the number of rows will be changing, you would want to set up a resize event listener to rescan for your grids, so that at mobile breakpoint, when it all goes to one column, or tablet where it all goes into 2 columns, or however you would do it, you would recall that, and it would run. You would probably want to target that only on the specific splitting by grid elements. Target data splitting equals grid grind type. There we go. And that would just limit your scope a little bit more if you were doing a resize event or changing the layout on resize. Let's do these width. Do 90%. It's fine. 100%. Yeah. And then height, we'll do padding top 100%. And that'll give us, yeah, nice squares. Responsive squares. Awesome. Okay. Well, that's all I've got on the docket for tonight. Let me see. We'll move this into Keyflections here in just a moment. And follow and subscribe on Twitch and YouTube. Hit those subscribe and like buttons. You can also pledge at patreon.com/keyframers, and that is a huge help to us each month. So let's keyflect a little bit, shall we? Let's go back. So again, this is continuing kind of the series from last week on animation, UX animation principles, following Terrace's ultimate guide to the proper use of animation in UX. This is chock full of great GIFs for you to observe, so you can see all of these principles. We just wanted to take these and turn them into code, so you can see a little bit of how they're practically implemented. Last week we covered a couple different animations. You get off easy, Santiago. And this week just continued it with some more. The first one we showcased was the menu showing the difference that easing can make. This is just a linear easing. Wanted to showcase deceleration and acceleration in the easing. When you just have linear, everything feels very robotic. It feels very rough, like almost like it's unfinished, or like you're just waiting for it to complete. So instead, we've got a more realistic animation over here, where coming in, the menu is decelerating, so it's slowing down. Hey, thanks so much, Nick. Glad you joined us. And then on the outro, it's accelerating. So think of it like a car. You know, when you're slowing down, you press on the brakes and you gradually come to a stop. Otherwise, you just are jerked into place and maybe trigger your airbag, and that's not what you want. So instead, you want to just slowly press on the brakes and allow it to slow down. And then same when the light turns green, you slowly accelerate and into 60 miles an hour or whatever you kids are driving at these days. So that's how those curves are supposed to work. I showed, let me see where that is. Sorry for all the flipping around. I showed the cubic Bezier curve creator here. This would be the deceleration curve, where it starts out pretty much normal speed and then slows down to a stop. And then the acceleration, we want it to start out slow, and we still want it to taper a little bit at the end, just so it's not a completely abrupt stop. Yeah, you can see how much better that feels. especially if we compare it with linear. Gosh, that feels so good. Let's see, let's switch that over. And so you can see that deceleration curve again. So I've got those dropped in under data state equals good here, which is wonderful. Watch that again. Great. And David was also helpful and implemented a wonderful little toggle overflow close that if you're going to have any kind of modal or menu pop up or anything like that where it's overlaying some other content, you really want to allow the user to click out of that state without having to hunt down a close button. So imagine this was just a tiny little modal in the center of the screen. You don't want to have to move your mouse all the way over to the modal and find the close button and close it out. What David added here was the same label element that we're using for the close button and the open button, but you can just click out here, and that makes it much easier to exit no matter how linear the animation might be. That's always a good thing to do for your users. And really quick before we move on from this one, we're using the CSS checkbox hack. So in our HTML here, we've got a input type equals checkbox for both of these, and then a label for that checkbox's ID, and that allows us to utilize input checked, and then we can toggle between two things. Thanks so much, Donnie. So that checkbox hack basically allows you to do some state toggles with CSS only, so that you don't have to introduce JavaScript, especially for little demos like this or anything. Accessibility wise, it may not be the best, but it's kind of semantic. I won't speak to that best practice. It is called the checkbox hack, though, so let that just be a warning before you use it in production. But it does work. It does work very well. I've used it in production, so hopefully that's helpful to you. All right. Next, we went into one of the other animations, showcasing the choreography. So choreography in animation, just like dance, it's trying to get everything in sync and to have things happen over time. So the choreography here, the example that Tara showed, you've got the bad animations over here where everything comes in all together on the right side, and then some weird awkward staggering over here. Now if you had some kind of async content loading, it's possible that it would come in like that, and that just feels wrong. With them all coming in at the same time over here, that's a little awkward too, because your eye isn't quite sure where to focus. The good example over here showcases how you kind of lead the user's eye down the list. So they get a sense of the order of everything and can follow along easily. It gives a little bit of hierarchy too. Let's copy David's nice little animation replay, and go back to auto updating preview so we can see our two examples. Let's see. Come on. Okay. All right, so on the bad here, there's just there's no staggering at all. It just all comes in at the same time, and that it just feels a little awkward. Let's see. Let's do this instead. Just a little bit more. Yeah. And then for data state equals good, we have just a simple for loop in SAS that utilizes nth child to stagger the animation delay for the items as they go down the list. And this works really well for a linear axis, just a single axis that you want to animate across, so horizontal or vertical. But if you start getting into a grid of items, that can be a little tough to do with just nth child staggering. So that's what we're showing here. Another one of the examples from the UX animation article. You can see this zigzag that really illustrates that well. How a user's eye is going to follow this loading. Because it's in a grid, this is item 1, item 2, item 3, item 4, item 5, item 6, item 7, item 8, item 9. So when you're just staggering by the DOM source order, you end up with that zigzag kind of effect. So let's go back and see that. Yeah, it's really it's not bad. Bad might be a little harsh, but it does cause the user's eye to bounce back and forth. So instead, what's shown in the good example here, starting in the top left and animating down to the bottom right with the delay, so that the user's eye is led from the top to the bottom. Let's see that again. Yeah. Well, let me make some adjustments here. Yeah, this could probably be a little bit quicker. All right. Unfortunately, with native CSS, there's not a great way to do this kind of staggering without a lot of just very specific configuring of nth child and doing nth child 3n plus 3 plus 6 plus whatever. You probably could pull that off, but it would be very confusing. So instead, what I've done here with my micro library splitting that I maintain with Christopher Wallace at Notorious B1T, you can utilize the data splitting equals grid, and what that does, if you look, each of these LIs now has some CSS variables added to it. So splitting actually goes in and checks the offset left and offset top of each of the child items of data splitting equals grid, and detects the rows and columns from there, so that you get these handy call index and row index variables that basically tell you what row and what column this item is on. And then for the parent, you get the total number of columns and the total number of rows. And then you can utilize those within your CSS. So I've got a calc with the call index and the row index. And you can see how they stagger in based on the based on the call index and row indexes, and it's always worth playing with the values there. But that leads the eye a lot better from top to bottom, whereas this has a little bit more of that bouncing back and forth. If we up the delay time a little bit, you'll be able to see that a little more clearly. Yeah. Yeah. So that's that is some additional animation principles that you can follow and utilize. I do highly recommend going back and reading this full article. The link will be available in all the descriptions and things. Terrace does a really great job with all of these animations and the breakdowns of everything. It's all explained really well. We weren't trying to just copy his work. We just wanted to show those principles in actual code so that you can get a sense of what that actually looks like to implement, and some of the ways that we go about implementing those in our daily animations. So the first one, deceleration and acceleration easing, shown in the good versus the bad. The next one of choreography, showing how you can lead the eye and by choreographing the animation by syncing up, similar to what we did with the easing examples or the delay examples last week. This really leads the user's eye, and along those same lines with choreography, leading the user from top left to bottom right, and instead of making their eyes zigzag back and forth. So yeah, that's all we've got for this evening. You've been watching at Keyframers, the animated collaborative coding live stream, where we bring imaginative user interfaces to life. If you've enjoyed this episode and would like to see more from David and I, who was kind of disembodied today, but still joined us for a little bit, you can like and subscribe this video. Give it a thumbs up on YouTube. Click subscribe around here. You can also pledge at patreon.com/keyframers, and that supports us on a month-to-month basis, and that is insanely helpful for helping us just have the types of equipment we need and to dedicate the time that we dedicate to this show. And we do accept submissions for future episodes, so tweet at us at Keyframers with any animations you'd like to see. You can also present questions or challenges that we'll try to answer on the air. And thank you, Rizzy, for subscribing. That is immensely helpful. Be sure to share this video and these demos across all your social media platforms. And thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, adios, amigos.